Several students came up and thanked us. And because of the distractions and because of students that maybe were in their classes, they really didn't care about class and all they were on their phones and constantly and not engaged. And so I was kind of blown away a little bit when kids would stop me and say, "Hey, Mr. Ryan, thank you so much for putting in the cell phone policy. We're getting more done."
Hello and welcome to Mindshift, a PLCS Empowerment Collective podcast. My name is Christopher and I am one of your hosts today.
And I'm Deb and I'm your other host. Welcome everyone.
And Deb, did you hear about a docuseries that aired on Hulu last year? It was called Social Studies.
I heard about it, but I haven't seen it. Tell us.
Okay, so I'm not recommending it. I'm not recommending it. I'm neutral on it, is what I should say. I'm neutral on this series because it is part like reality TV and then part documentary. And the documentary part was fascinating to me because what they did is they found a group of high school kids in California and asked them if they could follow them around in their daily lives and record them, and at the same time have a constant screen recording going on their phone. And then ask them questions about it and kind of learn about how they're using their phones and things like that. And what was interesting to me is in the interviews with the kids, in talking about their experiences on their phones, so many of the kids said, "I wish I didn't have it."
Seriously?
Yeah. They said, "I wish I didn't have it. I feel pressure to have it all the time."
I wonder why. And maybe this is something we can ask our guest.
I think it's a great thing to talk to our guest about. We're excited to have him joining us today. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, Jason Ryan. I'm currently the high school principal at Papillion and Vista High School. This is year 4 for me in this role, and I've got 28 years in education altogether. Actually, this is year 29 as I do the numbers there. So, and have seen the use of cell phones throughout a couple different high schools that I've worked at during my tenure.
So, Jason, you must have also seen when there were no phones, right?
Yeah. You're aging me a little bit. Yes, definitely. I was in that era when cell phones were not a thing, and we're not in the schools for sure.
We've talked about cell phones and device use on the show a few times, but never in the context of school, never in the context of what it looks like in the schools. It's always been with people who are either advocating for or against the use of devices or talking about screen time, all in general, right? And so talking about their use in school, from your experience in recent years, what does cell phone use in schools look like?
Yeah, so we're in year 3 of having a strong cell phone policy. We instituted it 3 years ago where we said, okay, during instruction time, cell phones are out of sight. I remember the first day, and we communicated it early with parents and families and students. Hey, when you come back to Monarch High, cell phones will be out of sight in the classroom, and very, very little pushback. When that email went out to parents, hey, and families, several positive comments. Hey, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. At that point, it was just put it in your pocket. And then if teachers wanted to do something that involved cell phone, it was kind of at teacher discretion. Of course, in the hallways, during lunch, during passing periods, they could have them out. Last year, year 2, we went to a little more restrictive. When students enter the classroom, we asked that the cell phone goes into the cell phone caddy. The expectation was during instruction time, cell phones are out of sight. This is year 3 right now. And last year we felt we were about 80% compliance with our staff. And so for this really to work, we got to continue to make sure we're doing our job administratively and making sure all of our teachers are doing the same thing across the board. Initially, we'd hear from parents, hey, how do I get a hold of my kid? Hey, call the office. We have 5 secretaries. Here's my direct line. I'll go get your child if you need something. But more often, the support has been very, very positive and appreciative from families.
That's really good to hear that families have been appreciative and there hasn't been a lot of pushback. But I'm remembering, Jason, last school year, we had a panel of students and they were talking about using digital devices in school. And one of the girls said, When they first told us we couldn't have them, we were not happy. But then later she said she felt like it was the best thing that ever happened to them because she said, I'm able to focus now. I can really do my schoolwork and I'm not distracted by my phone continually sending me notices. So did you notice anything with students in the years that you've started this?
Yeah, for sure. And I'll go back to 3 years ago. I was kind of blown away a little bit when kids would stop me and say, "Hey, Mr. Ryan, thank you so much for putting in the cell phone policy. We're getting more done. There's not as much social pressure and comparison." And so that was telling right there. That said, you know what, we've got part of it right. We're moving in the right direction. The other thing we heard from staff members are the engagement level was higher. Students were participating. Students were having conversations with each other. More homework was getting done. One of the things we noticed administratively during lunch duty every day is kids were having conversations with each other. Yes, they could still have their phones out, and yes, a lot of them, but more often than not, a table of six, you'd walk by and everybody would be buried in their phones. Last year, the year before, kids are having conversations, and sometimes we don't even see the phones. And so I just think it's a sense of relief. They're not tied to it. It's, part of it is the emotional fatigue and the addiction piece, as we know. It gives them a little break, some mental clarity, which is a good sign that, again, that we made the right decision.
And that kind of brings up an interesting point to me, because when schools are developing their policies or procedures about cell phones and what that looks like in the school, I feel like there's a school of thought that leans more punitive, where no, you're not going to have it because you guys can't handle the responsibility of having your phone in school. And so this is a punishment that we're issuing school wide. Then there's a school of thought that leans more on the protection side, or I don't know a better word for it, but that leans more toward, we're doing this to support your learning. We're doing this to increase your engagement. We're doing this to better provide some space and mental clarity for you to really focus on what's happening in the school day. So when you guys were having those conversations, and in what you've seen, where do you feel like your school fits on that continuum?
We don't want Monarch High to be a prison, but we also know it's our responsibility as the adults to, number one, teach. And part of teaching in this case is the digital literacy and how to appropriately use cell phones, when to use them. One of the things that we have to do as the adults, so we have to model what we're preaching as well. It's okay to put your cell phone on do not disturb, and to not check it during class. And if there's an emergency, we'll get it. We'll push the call button and let you know. And so to us, it's more of a protection, just trying to promote some balance, but all in all, we see it more as an educational piece.
So it does. I was going to ask you a question about setting boundaries, because it sounds like the kids feel some relief that you're the ones. They can say, well, I can't have my phone because that's our policy in our school, rather than having to say, I don't want to have my phone right now. I don't want to be plugged in all the time. Is that right?
Absolutely, yes. And with a lot of things, I'll say, yeah, blame me. Say the principal said I can't do this. We can take the heat on that. But yeah, and again, I think as we've talked to kids and just watched kids and hear from teachers, just the conversations kids are having with each other, the dialogue they're having, we still say, okay, during passing period, you have the ability, but we still expect there's reasons to use your phone and things to not do with your phone during passing periods, during lunch. But it has been, and we're okay. We're here to reinforce, to teach, and to set some boundaries. And that's why there's adults in our building, and to help grow and mold our kids.
I mean, I think that is a real challenge, though, and I think there is some benefit to giving kids that out, I guess, that reasoning, because I even struggle with that as an adult. I think that can be really challenging for kids as well, because there is that constant pressure of always available. You're always available as long as you've got that phone with you. And sometimes that pressure does come from parents. Sometimes it comes from the kids interacting with each other. So I think I like what you're saying about giving kids that excuse, if you will, to say, nope, I can't do it because it's a rule in my school.
I think the more and more we can talk about the why and be open about those things. And Dr. B, I love how you said that, because I know in your role and my role when I was an athletic director for 9 years, like that touch your hip, and I'm trying to get better at that at myself, to put it on do not disturb in certain windows of time. And so I just think being real and honest, we're in the relationship business, and so talking to kids about, if this comes up about our struggles or things that we do, no phones during mealtime, or when we're in the car together, or when we're out to eat, those type of things, just to let kids hear that this is okay, and just kind of understanding the why behind it.
With what you were just saying, you touched on this a little bit, but let's talk about it more explicitly here. What are ways that families can support what you guys are doing in the school at home?
Well, yeah, first off, they can just be advocates of what we're doing, and being on. And yeah, I don't want to have an email from a teacher that says that your phone was out during class. The expectation is when you come into class, you put it in the cell phone caddy. That's what we expect. And if we get a phone call from a principal or a teacher, potential consequence, maybe we take your phone away. You can't bring your phone to school. So that's where it starts. And then 2, maybe setting aside some time during, 7 to 8 when you do homework, your phone's going to be on do not disturb. Or we have dinner. Let's have conversation. Let's no phone when we eat as a family. So, and then at night, we hear all the time about kids, 1, not getting enough sleep, and 2, maybe one of the reasons is because they're on their phone and they're getting notifications, or it's vibrating, and setting some parameters. And we've had to do this with our oldest daughter, who graduated last year, about, okay, at 10 o'clock, your phone's off, or 11, or whatever that time is. And you can use it as an alarm clock, but everything else is going to be silenced and not available to you, because when you wake up, it's too easy to look and see, and then your brain goes a different direction and you can't sleep. And it affects you the next day and the next day after, and it affects everything you do. I'm not a good model of that, hadn't been, but I know when I'm not attached to my phone before I go to bed, I more often than not sleep better.
Yep. And we are getting to the end of our time together. So we have one last question for you. To end on a positive note, what gives you hope when you think about students and their ability to manage their engagement with technology?
Yeah. Well, number 1, kids are smart, and they know way more about technology than I do, and they know what the benefits of a laptop and iPads and cell phones. So what they can do with technology is unlimited. But they also they want to be held accountable, and they want boundaries. They want discipline, and there might be a little pushback, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, that structure, that consistency, the standard is the standard. Kids want those, and they might not realize it in the moment, but when push comes to shove, I think having some parameters in place is going to enhance their overall student experience. And we talk about all the time, as educators, we're trying to provide the best student experience possible. And for us, having some safeguards and some limitations with cell phone use is going to enhance their student experience and make them a better student person moving forward. And that's our job.
That is what we're here for. We're here for the students. So thank you, Jason, for joining us today. And thank you, listener, for listening to Mindshift. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also visit us online at plcschools.org/Mindshift for additional content. And be sure to join us next week for another exciting topic.